This is Daybreak. It's coming to you out of Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Now, as we promised, time to look at what the papers are saying on their front pages, both local and international newspapers. And I have with me, as usual, here in the studio, Dr. Constance Ikoku. Good morning to you, Constance.
Good morning, Indy. How are you today? Good. A very good morning. And we hope it will be a good day.
It has to be.
It has to be. That's a good one. It has to be. Well, to review the papers with us this morning, we have Eniola Akinkotu. He is the Chief International Correspondent of the Africa Report. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Well, hello there and welcome to the program. We'll begin with this day newspaper. In this day, Idris, fuel subsidy removal, Forex Windows unification aimed at rescuing Nigeria's economy. He was speaking when he paid a visit to Arise News. He says removal of subsidy resuscitated the economy and boosted government revenue. He said by the end of last year, the government saved 1.45 trillion naira from fuel subsidy removal. He also said that neighboring countries stopped buying fuel from the border when this occurred. Well, Minister Idris, he's the Minister of Information and National Orientation. He has been quite active. The entire government during this period has been active, reaching out to media houses in order to support the government, I guess. But this issue of fuel subsidy removal will continue to be very controversial. The government maintains that it took the right step, saving trillions of naira. At the same time, this has had unintended consequences. I think a lot of people didn't see what it will turn out to be, which is, the escalation of the cost of everything because of the cost of transport. But the government refuses to walk back. It says it did the right thing, Eniola.
Well, let me even disagree with the minister a little. I don't believe him when he says that, subsidy is gone. Of course, we're going to review some other stories later, but it doesn't seem that way. You look at the price differential between the cost of petrol and diesel. Of all the countries I've visited this year, in fact, most of the countries I've visited this year, diesel is even cheaper than petrol. Rwanda, for instance, was there 2-3 months ago. Diesel is actually cheaper than petrol. And if you look at, I think the World Bank, IMF, and different organizations, multilateral organizations have even said that, look, it doesn't look as if subsidy has gone. So I really don't believe what the minister is saying. And they said, oh, there's no more smuggling of petrol to other neighboring countries. That's not true. Last month, Nigeria Customs Service paraded some of the people who were, they didn't even parade anyone. They just, they said they had recovered some thousands of jerry cans of petrol going into Niger and I think Chad. So I don't know what the minister means by they're no longer smuggling to those countries. It's still smuggling. So I mean, it's one of the reasons why people are still protesting, because they think,
they think the government is
not telling the truth.
Yes.
But if you look at it very, very critically, how is it that in the last 6 months, currently the exchange rate is about 1,600, 1,500 to the dollar, and the cost of petrol has remained relatively the same, especially NMPC itself. NMPC has pegged it at between 620 and 590, depending on the state where you are. And so how is it that the exchange rate has been moving and then the cost of petrol has remained the same? Obviously, there's something going on somewhere.
Right. I mean, you can get it for 617, 619 in Abuja per liter. But like you said, there have been questions about are we still having fuel subsidy? When you look at the front pages of other newspapers, someone like Chief Olabade George did ask that question. And he says the government has to come forward and tell Nigerians the truth. Indeed.
You see, when you do not cut off the root of a problem, you're simply peppering the cracks. If you deal with the symptoms, you're going to continue to have the same problems. I mean, my chairman said he agrees. He said all of us agree that there should be subsidy removal. I personally, I don't agree. What's his
Have
name?
you always not agreed, or?
I have always not agreed.
Okay, okay.
Even with
because,
discussions among colleagues,
yeah,
you know,
majority of journalists did agree with that policy.
I
yes.
have not, and they started telling me, some of them who are discussing, Andy was saying he didn't agree when they saw the fallout.
Yes.
Now, Idris says 48 kilometers to Katsina, you have about 50 fuel stations at the outskirts that were buying, you know, smuggling fuel and buying it at lower. Then he also talks about some people trading in the Naira. That was why they had to do trying to match it. My argument has always been, what happened to our 4 refineries? Why are they not working? That's one. Number two, who are the people that are smuggling the fuel? Are they ghosts? Number three, who are the people? Look, small people, just like when you talk about bunkering, small people don't sell these dollars. So we keep making the mistake, we call names, we don't punish people. One of the greatest issues we have in this country is deterrent. People commit fraud, people do stuff, and nobody disturbs them. And they continue. And for as long as it continues like that, Constance, we are still peppering. We are addressing the trees, the leaves, and not the root. And the Nigerian masses keep suffering because I think it was yesterday, he said that, I think it was Edu, that said, okay, we had to remove it because few people were milking Nigeria so that the masses can enjoy. Now my question is, now you have removed it, who is suffering?
The masses especially. And at that meeting, what was also said was that, okay, maybe not the removal of subsidy is the problem, but how you pace the other policies. So the twin policy of removing it and at the same time floating the Naira. Did you think about it, about how it will affect everything? So it speaks to maybe a knee-jerk reaction of the government, lack of a well-thought-out process, or even understanding the vagaries of the market and what that will mean for the livelihoods of people. Eniola.
So yesterday I started reading former President Goodluck Jonathan's memoirs, My Transition Hours, where he spoke about this subsidy and dedicated a whole chapter to it.
Because he did try to remove it.
He tried to remove it in 2012 when you had the Occupy Nigeria protests. And of course,
the same people in government
this ruling party too opposed it at that time.
And they had a plan, actually.
They had a plan. So Jonathan, he said that he spent about 2 months on awareness and all that. He said he held meetings with the governors, held meetings with stakeholders, met with labor, met with students. He mentioned, in fact, about 7 or 8 sectors that said he met with as president before that thing was done. And of course, he came up with the Sure P program, which was headed by Christopher Kolade. The difference with the way President Tinubu did his was that it was while delivering his inaugural speech. I said the subsidy was gone. He didn't have any aides at that time. He didn't have any economic advisors. He didn't have a minister of finance. It seemed like a knee-jerk reaction. I remember having an interview with Ms. Obieze Kwesili some weeks ago, where she said it was the sequencing that was the main problem there. Because you removed subsidy, then overnight the price of petrol tripled. And then the following month, you devalued the currency. And then the price of petrol went up again. And the exchange rates has continued to be unfavorable towards Nigeria. If you look at our MTEF, midterm expenditure framework, the government is projecting that the exchange rates will be 650 naira to the dollar next year. So probably this is what they thought. Okay, they felt we could go on with this, but now that the exchange rate, the naira has continued to fall, they've seen they cannot continue. So subsidy has come back through the back door. Right.
Which is why everybody is saying, tell us the truth. Well, Andy, let's bring you in here. What is wrong with people in power telling the truth? Or even any government can make mistakes. You might have an idea in mind and you execute it and it happens that it doesn't work. There's really nothing wrong in saying, okay, we got it wrong here. We're going to try something else. And so the people will understand that at least the government is, has integrity and is trying to see if they can transform the economy. There's nothing wrong with that, but a situation where they persistently say this is not happening while it is happening, it continues to erode trust in the people that are in authority. And
I posted something on my status yesterday. I said, if there's anyone to fear, it is people that tell you lies. Do not be afraid of the people that tell you truth. Do not be afraid of people that tell you truth. You can handle people that tell you lies because straight ahead, you know they are lying and you know where they're coming from, and so you can deal with them, you can prepare. But people that tell you truth, you should welcome them. That's why we talk about trust deficit between the governed and those who are governing them. My dear, there is nothing wrong. It doesn't even, I think it will give you more honor, especially in the Nigeria of today. If you just come out and say, look, we missed it, and we're going to tweak it. But the problem is that we always think that accepting that you've done wrong, it belittles you.
right.
It makes you seem as if you didn't know what you're doing. You can make a mistake, you know. Like the chairman said, sequencing was the problem. You know, even if you say, okay, you're going to remove a subsidy, why did you do it at the same time with the floating of the naira, which he said was supposed to support the subsidy removal?
Well, the final thing is the monies that have been saved. He said 1.45 trillion naira. Where are they plugged into? That's another question. We're saving. Are you seeing the impact of the savings? We do know, though, that the federal government says the states have been receiving more money due to these savings. Again, the dichotomy between states and federal governments, what are they doing? That's a question that I'm sure that Nigerians are asking. Let's move on to Punch newspaper. FG suspends registration for 40,000 naira rice. The circular directing civil servants to register for the purchase of 50 kg bag of rice at a subsidized rate of 40,000 naira is no longer there. So earlier, the Ministry of Special Duties and Intergovernment Affairs had asked civil servants interested in purchasing to register by completing a Google form. This was to ensure transparency. When a government, when you're like, it looks like the more you see, or the more you look, the less you see. Perhaps the rice is not available yet, hence the suspension. We certainly need to know more about this. What is actually going on?
I really don't understand this our fascination with rice. Anyway, why is it always rice?
Why are you talking like that?
No, it's true.
Way back when I was younger, if you don't eat rice on a Sunday, wahala.
Well, that was once a week.
Your week. My director said your week has not started.
No, but that was once a week. Now we eat rice daily. It's not even good for you health-wise, right?
Because of the
white rice.
carbohydrate.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, anyway, I think the government too has said that they've opened what's it called now? They're lifting duty on
import duties.
import duty on rice,
Yes.
rice paddies anyway, and maize and some
Millet,
other staples.
sorghum, and a couple of
in
other
order to
items.
try to ensure there's more food and then ultimately bring down the price. Yeah. So, but I mean, it has never really worked. The distribution of this rice from the COVID-19 palliative time to December when the president released some sacks of rice to members of National Assembly to go and distribute to their constituencies. That one failed as well. The one that was given to the governments and the local government chairman, that one also failed. The problem you have with this sort of palliatives is that those who shouldn't be benefiting benefit, and those who should be getting it don't hardly get it.
Yeah.
So I have a few friends who are local government chairmen now. I'm 100% sure if I call them that, guy, please, I need one bag of... No.
You're connected.
You are
when
connected.
I want the rice, I will come and call you.
I don't need it. But if I say, please...
You don't need rice.
No, I don't need
In your
government
line, need it
palliative. I don't need government palliative,
Yes.
really. I mean, let's be honest. We don't
You
need
earn
it.
enough.
It's the poorest of the poor that actually
Yes.
need this thing. But unfortunately, it hardly gets to them. Then there's a trending video I saw where it was being rebagged. And some people are going to sell them. Exactly. So what mechanism is being put in place to ensure that these things are not being diverted? So I really don't understand the whole addiction with rice. Probably we look for something else, or we find another way to give our palliatives to people.
Well, and you see, when you look at what is going on, it seems like a lot of hurried policies. And it looks like government is making announcements based on panic in order to, calm down the situation. calming down the situation, that is not working. It just looks like it's so uncoordinated and unorganized.
You have just used the two words, uncoordinated, knee-jerk approach, unorganized, and that beats you. Because even, you see, when you respond to pressure, automatically you make mistakes. One thing is clear, there will be pressure. Personal, individual pressure, government pressures. You can run away from it. But a good leader, in fact, I've even thought about the pressure before it comes. So you organize, look at the pyramids of the rights that are being shown there. Like Eniola said, even the chairman alluded to the fact of social register. What do we have? I don't understand. Where is the social register? There should be a plan of how you get these things across, or get it directly to the people. Don't give it to politicians. Don't give it to people who will play politics to hide it or want to impress people. The poorest of the poor or the poor should get these things. But it should be organized. Before you could even say Jack Robinson, you've called it back. It means you didn't know what you were doing. Admonition.
But even at the states, at the state level, you know those bags of rice that
and
were
then, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
Eniola talked about people selling it. We must also point out here that, yeah, we're not blaming. We're giving the flag to the federal government. Nigerians themselves also, some of us also have a part to play in what is going on in our system. Why should you bag a rice that is supposed to be given to people for free to sell it?
Right.
And then the governor, state levels.
Recall that last year too, when he spoke about this knee-jerk reaction and lack of planning. Last year, customs too, they said, oh, they're going to distribute some of the rice that they had seized. They're going to distribute them, and they didn't even do it properly. You had stampedes, and people died in the process.
Yes.
It's still part of the whole lack of planning and being so disorganized with this thing. So it goes back to that issue of subsidy, because this whole cost of living crisis can be traced to that subsidy removal and then the devaluation of Naira. A lot of these things are supposed to have been properly conceptualized and done in a very, very, very organized and systematic way. Now, because there was very bad planning, you just see them just sort of running from pillar to post. Okay, let's try this now. Okay, let's run. Okay, it's just so disorganized. I wish, we had put better planning into this thing.
Do we remember the bags of rice that were supposed to go to state governments as well? I think how many bags was each state supposed to get?
I can't remember.
They said 22 trucks per state.
Okay, yeah.
Trucks, not
trucks.
trucks, not even bags. What we were also hearing is that maybe that's not even available. So a lot of questions for the government. Here, let's move on to Vanguard newspaper. In Vanguard, Atiku Obi CSOs fume over raid of NLC headquarters by security agents. Angry reactions yesterday trailed the invasion of the headquarters of the Nigeria Labour Congress by security agents Wednesday night. The Department of State Services, alleged to have carried out the attacks, has denied it. It said they have no hand in this. This happened by 10 p.m. on Wednesday in connection with the nationwide protest. For the government, again, it's another blunder. It's one blunder to the other. One has to ask, who advises the government, or who are the people doing these things? Although the DSS says it's not them, but whenever you see stories like this that actually make the front page, then there's something going on, Eniola.
Yes, I think I read another news report from another TV station yesterday where they said they spoke to some of the guys at the Labour House, and they said it was a combined team, that they saw some people in police uniform there. But again, it speaks to how haphazardly things are done in this country. Every time we hear that DSS did this and then they deny it. Why is it that nobody has come out? No agency of government has come out to say we are the ones who did this. It is part of an ongoing investigation. We got a court warrant. It seems that it was done illegally. That's why it was done under the cover of night. Because why weren't those people present? Why did you do it when nobody was present? If you're going to even effect a search warrant, is it not best to do it when those who are involved are there, so that there won't be allegations of, oh, you planted this there or you planted that? the government is really working on thin ice here because they have a very, very bad relationship with Labour.
Yes.
Remember that 2 months ago, Labour turned out, they shut down the national grid. So we're trying, you know, and amid a protest again, you are picking a fight with Labour. I think they need to, you know, be very, very clever about this. No one is saying that anyone is above the law, but you need to, you know, follow the law too. If you're going to, if you say you are doing an investigation, then you need to be very, very, you need to follow the law so that you are not also found wanting yourself.
Yeah, so the custodian of the law breaking the law. This
issue of raiding or secret raids, remember it happened once in the United States too, some 50 years ago, and ultimately led to the impeachment really and the resignation of Richard Nixon when the security operatives went to go and raid the DNC headquarters, you know, just because didn't follow due process.
Right.
So I think they need to be very, very careful.
I mean, the government is already struggling with its image. Stories such as this further damages its reputation, aren't they?
It couldn't have spoken better. The NLC is asking for international inquiry.
Yes, so that's yeah.
I
don't know if that's going to happen.
Well, into this invasion, we'd like to tell the international people, take your hands off the things that have to do with our state.
We call Russia.
Yeah,
call Russia to come and do it.
Well, the truth is that one can't even fathom it. This is democracy, and 10 p.m. That was the time they went there. What are you going to NLC? DSS is denying it. So it's DSS's word against Labour. But one thing is clear. Some security people went to NLC office. Who sent them? An investigation should be carried out. If they went on their own, then they should be brought to book. If they didn't go on their own, who sent them? Why should you be attacking the Labour House? What have they done? They're not even a press organization in the first place. So it smacks, it rubs off badly on a government that is already not in tune with its people, you know.
I mean, the article says that they tried to get the presidency and the information minister to speak on this. It was unsuccessful. I mean, Minister Idris is always talking. In fact, he is one of the most active ministers, you know, in this administration. Whether you like what he's doing, what he's saying, he is defending the government.
And when his body language is good.
Right. You know, he's very calm and he speaks forthrightly and he walks. I mean, he talks the talk of the government. You know, you may or may not like that. But the point is, yes, perhaps he needs to explain what happened here because people are asking for answers, you know. Well, let's move on to a New Telegraph this morning. In New Telegraph, we'll be looking at the story. Stop returning arrested bandits to communities. TED Fund researchers warn Tinubu and governors. TED Fund is the Tertiary Education Trust Fund. The researchers say this practice of returning bandits and delay in helping victims are some of the reasons why banditry persists. They also identified lapses in the legal and security frameworks, when they say, which they say deters individuals from reporting suspicious activities for fear of reprisals. I mean, well, from this article, we can understand why the communities will be afraid to report bandits when shortly they are reported, they are returned to the communities. That's a dangerous situation for them, Niola.
It shows that there's no deterrent for bad behavior in this country. If you look at the crisis in Zamfara State, you know, Zamfara has more or less become the epicenter, of insecurity in the country. The immediate past governor, who is now Minister of State for Defense, so, you know, Matawale was saying that, oh, the bandits deceived him.
Very good portfolio given to him anyway. Yeah, so he understands the problem.
He conceived this amnesty program for them. You know, there were allegations that, you know, cars were also given to them and, you know, just as some sort of empowerment. Masari did the same thing too. The immediate past governor of Katsina State, who is now chairman of TED Fund, that is even speaking up now. So there's a lot of irony there. Or maybe he wasn't the one who made that statement in TED Fund. Well, it seems that...
No, it's researchers.
Okay, researchers.
Yeah, researchers that are advising the government.
Okay,
yes, yeah.
okay, researchers. Because I saw TED Fund there too, so
researchers that work for TED Fund, yes.
Oh, okay, then that's fine. So I mean, the federal government itself too is doing it through this operation, I think Safe Corridor, I think that's it, where they're doing the radicalization. They're doing it in conjunction with IOM and some, some multilateral organizations. I understand that the federal government's own is very thorough, but that one has also even come under a lot of criticism too. You have allegations of, some people who were de-radicalized going back to it. And now that you're having a cost of living crisis, you can be sure that some of them are still going to go back to it. Last year they were given, some of them were given capital to start a business, they were taught life skills and all that. Yeah, but if the cost of living crisis continues, you're going to see so many of them going back. So I think the program itself needs to be reviewed. Reviewed, because they're trying to pattern it after the amnesty program in the Niger Delta.
But it's not the same.
But it's not the same.
Not the same thing.
Yes, those ones are not as radical as.
You have to wonder who is advising the government, Ndi.
He mentioned de-radicalization.
Yes.
What I was going to talk about was, are these people being de-radicalized? And then from the experts, what's the length that someone who has been deep into this kind of way of living, what is the length, the normal accepted length of their de-radicalization? Because I think what is happening is that these people are not really being de-radicalized. Because if you need to take time to change their thinking, their paradigm, to begin to understand that you're fighting against the system. You have to correct your ill behavior before you can be brought back into the society. Maybe they need some separate place where you then take time and work on their mindset before you can then introduce them back to the community, if you need to introduce them back to the community.
But is this about the radicalization, or are these just criminals that need to be put away in jail?
Whether they, if a good point.
This is criminality.
But the military was saying that most of the people who are in this program are they're not really fighters. They were maybe those who were kidnapped, or they were those who were kidnapped and had been converted by Boko Haram. Those who were not really fighters. No, we're not talking about terrorism. This one is banditry. Oh, banditry.
Yeah, no, this is not terrorism. Okay. Bandits.
It's criminality.
It's criminal activity.
You don't have any other word for it. If they own up, then you can begin to talk about de-radicalization. But we're still discussing the papers, front pages. We'll come back and then we will continue. We'll take a breath and I don't go away. You're watching Daybreak, coming to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We're still discussing the front pages of the papers, both local and international. We're all local now. We'll soon get into international. Let's have Constance and Eniola with me here, Constance.
Yeah, so before we went on break, we were talking about that third fund suggestion and the banditry. What we also forgot to add was that most often the victims of that banditry, they are abandoned. Completely abandoned, and that's what the research are saying, that there shouldn't be delay in helping the victims, because they are the ones that bear the brunt. I think most times energy is focused on how to help the bandits, the ones that are causing the problem. So just
instead of concentrating or even thinking about, Eniola was saying something before we came back on air, that some of even the ladies, the victims, who had husbands.
That's for terrorists.
For terrorists.
Okay, for terrorists.
That's for Boko Haram terrorists.
Which is also dangerous. Yes. Because you also try to get these people back into the society. But when these girls who were kidnapped want to go back to their husbands because they said they don't like the system, so it's not just about support. Something is terribly wrong.
Well, and those kids are taken so young, so they're unable to make the right decisions for themselves. And I guess also there might be cases of brainwashing that goes on when they are taken. So this is complex, and that's why they need a lot of help and counseling.
And experts to be able to deal with their psyche.
Yeah, such a sad situation.
We discussed a girl I mean, you can imagine this one. Maybe you say it's uneducated, but how about a girl, a British girl, and you're like, we talked about it.
Yes.
That joined ISIS.
Her citizenship was revoked now because she wanted to come back into the
Let's
UK,
stay
and
there.
they said no, there's no point. It was a lost cause, really.
Yeah,
Yes.
lost cause.
Right, let's move on to Guardian newspaper. Nigeria's $20 billion budget can't fast-track development. It's far below global peers, says Bagudu. Atiku Bagudu is the Minister of Budget and National Planning. He says when you look at countries such as Indonesia and Brazil that are as populous as Nigeria, our budget pales into insignificance. The federal budget of Indonesia, for instance, is about $210 billion, while Brazil is $700 billion. We can't realistically achieve development with this, he argues. Well, a good thing that the discussion is coming from a federal minister, and the Ministry of Budget and National Planning is key to policy formulation, coordination, and development programs. And managing the budget, you know, the ministry also is supposed to have long-term, medium-term plans for the country. So Minister Bagudu is talking to himself. He's identifying the problem. He should be looking for the solutions. Shouldn't he, Aniola?
Yeah, so Nigeria has a revenue problem. Of course, there's a separate argument that there's a spending problem as well. But really, we have a revenue problem. You look at our tax to GDP ratio, it's less than 10%. Then you have high cases of oil theft, because you know Nigeria is an oil-based economy.
Yes.
So it's so difficult for government to implement programs without, you know, relying so much on foreign loans, you know. But unfortunately, too, amid this revenue problem, we also have a spending problem.
We do.
Yeah. So you look at it that despite the deficits we have, there's still plans being made for the president to acquire a $100 million presidential jet. So
that's been approved already.
Yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, you look at the National Assembly too, all the money that that goes to their zonal investment programs, zonal intervention programs, sorry, you know. So it also defeats the argument to when government says, oh, look, you don't have enough money to do subsidy, to pay subsidy and all that, because the little that you have, how are you also spending it? So yeah, Bagudu is 100% right in that regard. Even at the state level, it's even worse, where some states are not even, their IGR is next to nothing, and they have to, you know, depend solely on the federal government, on federal allocation to get by, to even pay salaries. So I agree with Bagudu on that, really.
You can come in here.
And allow me
You're lost for words. Lost for words.
made a very good statement there. The little that you have, how are you spending it? How are you managing it? I mean, think about Nigerians at this time. They are managing. You know, I always ask myself the question. People who are earning 30,000, people who are earning 50,000, 20,000, they have accommodation they pay for. They have students they send to school, and then they buy foodstuff. And I'm asking myself, how do they manage? I don't know who can answer that question. How do they get around it? So it begins, yes, you can point out that the federal budget of Indonesia is about $210 billion. That of Brazil is about $700 billion, all right. And the other one thing you didn't add is that people are also stealing.
Right.
They are pilfering funds. So even the ones you should use, some people are stealing it. And then the fact that RAMFAC, there's a bloated, the National Assembly, the chairman talked about it, what they take, maybe not of salary, but allowances, is just bloated. There are so many things to cut off in this system if we're really serious and want to get down to the basics and do things the right way.
That beautifully connects to our next story, the final story on the local front. Let's pull up New Telegraph again. Tinubu appoints special aides to engage citizens across 6 geopolitical zones. This is to bring the government closer to the people and strengthen direct communication, the government says. The aides have a mandate to engage directly with the public. Every day, new appointments, government appointments. What do we have to show for it? I mean, this government has the biggest cabinet in the history of Nigeria, 48 ministers and counting, and countless aides. I mean, what are we doing, Eniola?
So I'm really surprised by, this headline from New Telegraph, because I recall that late last year, you had special assistance on public enlightenment and orientation or something like that for each of the geopolitical zones. I know that the Southwest, it's Moremi Ojudu, and you have like that for each of the zones. So I don't know why another set. Is it that those ones were sacked? Because that's the same portfolio that they were given to do this. Fela Durotoye, this public, what's it called now, the motivational speaker.
Yes.
He was also appointed the senior special assistant on national values and orientation and all that. Then you have the National Orientation Agency also doing this as well. So I really don't understand this particular one again. I need to really read it.
Of duties.
Yeah, because
too many appointments, too many special advisors. Andy, quickly, do you have anything to add?
No, nothing really.
Okay, so let's move on to the international headlines. We will look at Daily Graphic from Ghana. New gold refinery opens. Vice President demands responsible gold sourcing. The first gold refinery in which the state holds a stake has been commissioned in Ghana. This is in line with the government's vision to add value to the country's gold reserves. The refinery has a capacity to refine 400 kilograms of raw gold, that's raw gold, or 132 tons of 24 carats, 99% of pure gold annually. The refinery can process all the gold volume in Ghana as well as those from neighboring countries. What a milestone for Ghana, adding value to a natural resource as opposed to the centuries-old practice of just digging the ground, bringing out the resource, giving it to Western countries who then refine or process, package them as products and sell it back to us and the rest of the world. This is a new development, Eniola.
Yeah, congrats to Ghana on that. They're known as they were known as the Gold Coast at the point of independence before they changed their name, and I think they are living up to the billing. Unfortunately, Nigeria too has a lot of huge gold deposits. Right. In Zamfara and Osun State, I think about 4 places. I had an interview with one of the, there's this group, Women in Mining and all that, and one of the members was telling me how, she tried to invest in this, but that because of the insecurity, she just had to back out. It was somewhere in Zamfara, I think, where they said that military, I don't know, an aircraft was targeted by insurgents, I don't know how bad insecurity is in Ghana, but I don't at least look at what they've been able to achieve. We that even have, we have gold, we have lithium, we have crude oil,
so many,
and we are not even refining.
Right.
Even the petrol itself, they're still having problems with that, although Dangote is coming to the rescue now. And this one in Ghana too, it's a PPP.
It is a PPP.
Between Rosie Royal Minerals of India, and China's and Ghana's central bank with a 20% stake, which is interesting,
Because you remember, too, NNPC was supposed to have the 20% interest in stake in Dangote.
Before, and they have not yet bought. I think they said they stopped at 7%.
At 7%, yes.
They said they didn't want to pay the remaining stake. Now, this is interesting, which means that they're probably asking Rosie Royal Minerals to come and invest in Ghana.
Of course, compelling them, not asking, not giving you an option.
Good, come and invest in Ghana, which is what it should be. This for them will stop smuggling, and raise national earnings, and then it create employment. This is good thinking. And for some days now, we've been seeing very good, well thought out plans by the Ghana government, to improve the lot of their people. We remember the roads app thing, where people will participate in being a part of construction of roads in Ghana. This is quite fantastic. It's our own. Let's do it here instead of giving it to people, and then we begin to sell at the international market rate of the exchange rate, which will be taking our funds out. This is quite interesting.
And Uganda is doing the same. I mean, the goal now for everybody is creating those value chains. Yes, you're not connected internationally to the international economic capitalist system and the markets, but you can begin to do that. And then, of course, when you create those value chains, it creates more jobs for your people and really adds a lot of value to your system.
And then the fact again that, I mean, Africans, you will hear some, especially the what did you call that one? What did you call that lady? We're discussing about Arika Mbowe.
Oh, okay, Arikana. Something to
Hombori, who's been talking about, you know, Europe and the Western world trying to strangulate the economy of Africa. Nobody's going to develop your thing for you. You have to learn how to begin to take it at the by the stroke of the neck and do it by yourself, and get them to buy in. You know.
Right. So let's look at the Guardian UK. The Guardian: laws to stop fake news are not fit for purpose, says London Mayor. Such laws must be revisited after the spread of falsehood contributed to the current riots across the country, says the mayor. Sadiq Khan said the country must act quickly to review the Online Safety Act. His comments come after Elon Musk escalated his attacks on the Labour government, sharing a fake Telegraph article that claimed that Keir Starmer was considering sending far-right rioters to emergency determined camps. Musk has since deleted the post. In fact, he deleted it after 30 minutes. I mean, a lot of rancor going on here. The mayor certainly has valid points that we have to find a way to stop misinformation. At the same time, some caution that we should tread softly, because there is a fine line between clamping on freedom of speech and fighting disinformation. And
I think every society is going through this problem now, because these are emerging trends or emerging threats too. Elon Musk has been very, very responsible of late, and it's one of the reasons why a lot of advertisers have been boycotting, his platform. That's X. He's being called out every minute. He has expressed his support for the far right movement, and for Donald Trump and others. So he's pushing that, but you expect that at his level, he shouldn't be doing it so brazenly. Everyone knows that London has been facing riots, and a lot of the riot itself is also being fueled by social media too. There have been trending videos of policemen going to people's houses, and showing them, the tweets or the posts that they made and said, you made this on so and so that you are hereby arrested. So it's very funny. But the issue now is, of course, is it also a threat to free speech? So it's now, an ethical issue as well. And ethical questions are hardly ever answered on a yes/no basis. There's always, there are always gray areas here and there. I think the world needs to sit down and see how they can, fashion out what works best.
I mean, every country will have to deal with it its own way. And it also shows the power of these monopolies, these social media giants, and what they're doing to the world. I mean, social media has advanced a lot of discussion online, and help the world provide information and all of that, make it easy to also access information. On the downside, we're seeing the downside here. And for Elon Musk himself to tweet something that was fake, that's a new low.
You can't. I am trying to, but I can't. I'm trying to get into his thinking. The other day, it was on the front page of a newspaper in London, where he said that war is inevitable.
Yes.
And he got a flack from British people, particularly the authorities. And for the life of you can't understand why somebody at the level of Elon Musk is doing this. How can you tweet fake? Is he trying to sell his X platform or what? And that's a horrible way to try to get people to, flock his platform. Khan is saying that the Online Safety Act, which has become law, is not yet fully come into effect.
Right.
It's a balancing act because what matter, like I said on several occasions, maybe the tech people will have to get people, if you're writing anything on social media, put your name or even your face, so that if there's need be, you can be held accountable.
Well, we'll see how that goes. You were going to say something.
Elon Musk, his son became a girl.
Yes.
Recently.
Yeah.
He said that it was the liberals that caused it. And they were giving him this
wrong information,
drugs and all that. Yes. So since then he has become a a right-wing nationalist. He's taking it to the other end. In fact, the child actually even came out to lambast him on social media. I think some 3 or 4 days ago, and that's what he's been doing. So I think he really needs to tread very, very softly. That's
and that issue of his child, he said, the whole process was couched in language or deceptive language that he did not understand what was going on. Well,
again, it is the danger of online.
Right. Okay, let's see our last international paper. Financial Times. Plea for calm. Yunus sworn in as interim leader of Bangladesh and issues appeal to end violence. Muhammad Yunus, a Nobel laureate, has appealed to fellow citizens to help save the country. Quote, I appeal to the citizens to save the country from anarchy so that we are able to move ahead on the path that we have chosen. Yunus was sworn in as the interim leader yesterday. Yesterday was Thursday, yes. And the interesting thing here is that this was one of the main demands of the students who were protesting. They said, we do not want a military government. We want you to bring back Yunus. He is a man of integrity, and we want him to chair or navigate this entire process to get a better leadership. I mean, the man is 84. He's accomplished. He's been hailed as someone who helped a lot of poor people. He had this Grameen Bank, which was giving small loans to businesses, to poor people. He's done wonderful things. He speaks to integrity and how integrity is important. They had to bring him back from France, Nyola.
Yeah, he's a champion of microfinance.
Yes.
And that was what earned him the Nobel Prize, which he won some years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, these students, because the protests were led mainly by students, and they were very, 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 deliberate about it. They knew what they wanted, and they were united. Now they've been able to chase the prime minister away,
yes.
and they brought it. The military tried to take advantage. They were trying to install themselves, and they said no. We're not going to accept this.
Yes.
The protests will continue, and they've paid a huge sacrifice. About 300 dead or so.
More than
that. So I mean, they've made sure that they got their demands, and let's just hope that stability returns to Bangladesh. One of the things that triggered the protest, too, if you recall, was this the quota system that they were.
Jobs.
They said that jobs were 30% of jobs or so were going to be given to the families of the veterans of the Bangladesh Independence War and all that. It shouldn't have come to this, but unfortunately, when we have leaders that don't listen, this is what happens.
And before you come in, so one of the things is that the police chief resigned and a new one was appointed. And so this new one has apologized to the students and, told them that he will investigate how this entire process went, occurred, and how the killings occurred, and he really apologized. So that speaks to leadership. When you do something wrong, you are overseeing human beings, not rocks. So it is okay to speak to the people directly, apologize to them, and say we will do better.
I'm almost tearing up, frankly.
Tearing up, please don't tear up. We don't have tissues here.
You know why? You know why? Because this is a hard thing. Students, not elders. So the power of focus and determination and knowing your goals ab initio. They knew what they wanted. They knew where they were going to. They stuck to their guns at the cost of a heavy sacrifice.
Yes.
And then this is now an opportunity for Yunusa, who has written his name in gold,
yes,
or maybe to write his name in diamond, if you like. It's an opportunity for him now, because the man even said, I will rule I will lead sincerely. You know,
He's a sincere man.
Yeah, so this is an opportunity for him to now write his name in. And like he said, now I'm here, there's no need for the protest any longer. And I think I agree with him.
Yes.
It's now for the students to sit back and then watch. But kudos to the students.
And work out the other demands because they have it. Yes.
Yes, and it's for our leaders in Africa, particularly in Nigeria, where you try to muscle people, you know, instead of muscling them, listen to them. They are crying because something is not right. Listen to them. Look, I mean, the cry was that when the president did his speech, not one of the request of the take back or the end bad governance was addressed. Not one. How do you do that?
A joke.
All right, yeah, a joke. All right, I think we'll call it a day here. Thank you so much, Constance and Eniola. I'm going to wish you a beautiful weekend.
You too. I'm looking forward to it. Oh my goodness. We should have coffee.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for watching. It's been a beautiful day. All right, we'll do this again next week. You'll be watching Daybreak. Now time for the morning show. And as you know, every day indeed does matter here on Arise News. I am Ndi Amugo. Thank you.